Chapter 106, Tianhai City Military Barracks. At this time, the neighbors of Building 25 were huddled in their homes, eating dinner with the food Zhang Yi had given them. They hadn't bathed in nearly a month and were itching so badly that some of them had even developed ringworm. But there was nothing they could do. They couldn't get enough hot water, and even if they could boil water with a kettle, they had to save it for drinking. How could they dare to take a bath? If they got sick after bathing, they would only have to wait to die. Jiang Lei and Li Qingbin were roommates. They had been good friends in college and worked at the same company after graduation. That night, the two were in a good mood because Zhang Yi had given them each a box of braised pork rice. The 2 boxes of braised pork rice were taken from the supermarket shelves and had long since frozen solid. However, that didn't stop them. They stuffed the rice and meat under their down jackets and heated it for over 30 minutes until it was soft enough to eat. In the pitch-black room, the two wrapped themselves in thick blankets and quilts, with only their heads exposed. Jiang Lei used a spoon to scrape out a piece of meat, stuffed it into his mouth, and chewed for a long time before he could finally taste the flavor. His face was full of happiness. At this moment, being able to eat this was like eating a top-notch meal. It's a good thing we followed Zhang Yi. Now we can eat braised meat, Jiang Lei said happily. But next to him, Li Qingbin was silent, just gnawing on the rice in his hand. That's right, not eating, but just gnawing. After all, the rice and meat were frozen together, and he found it troublesome to use a spoon, so he just stuck his face in and gnawed on it. Jiang Lei saw that Li Qingbin wasn't saying anything and thought he hadn't heard him, so he nudged him with his elbow. Hey, I was right, wasn't I? Let's follow Zhang Yi from now on. Didn't you see Zhou Qi? That guy is still looking shiny and bright, wearing designer clothes, like Canada Goose. The scariest thing is that she looks like she can still take a shower. Jiang Lei's eyes were full of envy. His current method of cleaning himself was to rub the dust off his body with his hands, leaving long streaks behind. But later, he couldn't bear to rub it off because it kept him warm. Li Qingbin glanced at him and said in a muffled voice, "What's the use of envying others? You don't have what they have." Jiang Lei exclaimed, "You're right, we don't have those spare parts. Otherwise, I'd give it a try." He looked at his friend and smiled, "But before that, I'll let you have some fun first." Li Qingbin said unhappily, "Get lost. With your appearance, I wouldn't even want you for free." Jiang Lei argued, "Don't be so picky, I'll use my mouth if I have to." Shut up, the more you talk, the more disgusting it is." The atmosphere between the two began to become a little subtle. After a moment of silence, Li Qingbin said in a low voice, "Jiang Lei, do you think that Zhang Yi is actually treating us as cannon fodder by giving us food? He doesn't want us to live at all." Jiang Lei's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Li Qingbin repeated what the neighbors had said during the day to Jiang Lei. Jiang Lei also fell silent. "What's the point of talking about that? What can we do? We thought about killing him and stealing his family's house and food. But we couldn't beat him, and he almost killed us. In this world, whoever is stronger is the boss. As long as he feeds us, we have to obey him." Li Qingbin remained silent. Just then, their cell phones rang. Li Qingbin took his cell phone out of his pocket and glanced at the message. His expression immediately became serious. Amidst the seriousness, there was also a hint of tension and excitement that was difficult to understand. The next day, Zhang Yi rode his snowmobile out of the neighborhood as usual. Since he had been ambushed yesterday, he took a detour and went out in a different direction. He didn't call Uncle Yu today because he was going to the military barracks to dig up the buried weapons and equipment. He would also look for some trees to cut down for future use. Last night, Li Jian, Chen Lingyu, and the others contacted him again. They just wanted to ask Zhang Yi what he had decided. Zhang Yi just gave them a vague answer and said he needed to think about it some more. But he could clearly sense that some people were starting to get impatient. Zhang Yi didn't care about their attitudes. He was just waiting to see when they would take action. After all, it would take some time to get everyone in Building 29 to agree on a united front. that would give him enough time to make thorough preparations. After 2.5 hours, Zhang Yi arrived at the place he had been to yesterday, relying on his memory. Under his feet was a vast expanse of white snow. Except for a landmark in the distance, there was nothing else around him. Zhang Yi took the excavator out of the dimensional space and began digging downwards as he had done last time. With experience under his belt, Zhang Yi's excavator skills had become much more proficient. After another busy half-day, he dug down to the house below. Zhang Yi didn't know if it was an armory, but now that he had dug up the building, it would be easier to break through the walls and make holes than to dig through the snow. So he jumped down and searched carefully, only to discover that this was not an armory, but military barracks. Although he had come to the wrong place, at least he had seen the building, which meant that the armory couldn't be too far away. However, when Zhang Yi entered the dormitory, he noticed something strange. Logically speaking, with heavy snowfall, almost all means of transportation on land would be unusable. If these soldiers stayed here, they would not be able to leave once the snow got heavier. Therefore, there would definitely be many corpses in the military camp. But when he entered the dormitory, he found that the quilts were neatly stacked and the sheets were smoothed out. He didn't find a single soldier who had frozen to death. How strange, how could there be no one here? Zhang Yi couldn't understand where all the soldiers had gone. He went to check the neighboring dormitories and found the same scene. Could it be that they all left here? An idea formed in Zhang Yi's mind, and he felt that it was the most likely explanation. After the snowstorm hit, the higher-ups must have received accurate information right away and knew that the end of the world was inevitable. So they needed to go to shelters, and these soldiers were transferred away to protect their safety and transport supplies. With this thought, Zhang Yi's mind cleared up. Combined with the empty warehouses he had seen earlier, he realized the truth. A small number of high-ranking officials had probably completed their evacuation on the night of the snowstorm. However, ordinary people had not received any information about this. They were now hiding somewhere, waiting for the disaster to pass before coming out to continue ruling the world. A sense of alertness rose in Zhang Yi's heart. He knew that the disaster would not pass in a short time, and after a long period of hardship, everyone's hearts would change. At that time, some armed forces might emerge and become a huge threat. However, that time would not come too quickly, because for now, they still had a minimum level of order. Chapter 107, A Bountiful Harvest. Zhang Yi didn't have much time to think about it. The days were long and the nights were short. If he didn't hurry up and find the armory, it would be dark by the time he got back. But now that he had dug up the barracks, at least he had a reference point. Zhang Yi climbed out of the barracks onto the snow and began to compare the surrounding landmarks. In his mind, he recalled the directions Uncle Yu had given him yesterday. The excavator continued to work, and this time, it didn't take long for Zhang Yi to find the location of the armory. The armory was heavily guarded, and due to being covered by snow, he couldn't see the whole picture, but it felt like a cement box. Zhang Yi found an iron door with a heavy silver lock hanging on it. Zhang Yi took out his crowbar and tried with all his might, but after half a day of hard work, he still couldn't pry the door open. The army's armory really isn't that easy to break into. But I don't dare use a gun. Zhang Yi stood with his hands on his hips, thinking, when he suddenly remembered that he had come here in an excavator. He slapped his forehead, quickly got into the excavator, and used the machine to break the door lock. Then, he couldn't wait to enter the armory. He opened the steel door in front of him, and the scene inside was enough to make any man's blood boil. It was Zhang Yi's first time seeing a real armory, and it was not quite what he had imagined. There were no piles of bullet boxes stacked inside large iron cabinets. There were many iron racks against the wall, on which were placed black guns, all of them rifles. On the iron racks were some gray-green boxes made of an unknown metal, which looked very heavy. There were some camouflage uniforms and helmets hanging on the wall, and Zhang Yi even saw some camouflage spray paint under the iron racks. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and put all the rifles into his dimensional space. Now he had so many guns that he couldn't possibly use them all. Unless he wanted to form a doomsday survival team in the future, they would never see the light of day again. But Zhang Yi didn't care about that. He put them away first, just in case they might be useful in the future. He wasn't very interested in these guns. He was mainly looking for bullets, grenades, and even RPGs. Since he was in the weapons room, Zhang Yi moved very carefully. He opened the iron boxes one by one and found that they contained various types of bullets. Zhang Yi had learned about firearms at the shooting club, so he understood the basic types of bullets and their corresponding guns. In this armory, there were more than 2,000 handgun bullets and more than 5,000 rifle bullets of various types. There were also more than 300 sniper bullets. In addition, he found a military sniper rifle. Unlike the police model he used, this military sniper rifle was more adaptable to the environment and had good waterproof, dustproof, and even freeze-resistant capabilities. However, its accuracy was slightly inferior to the police sniper rifle. But for Zhang Yi, this was not a problem at all, as he could make up for it with his superhuman ability to shoot with precision. What surprised Zhang Yi even more was that he found 10 boxes of hand grenades, 5 in each box, for a total of 50. This search was a huge haul for Zhang Yi. If they all went out on missions, they would indeed need to take their equipment with them. That's why there's less than half of the equipment in this warehouse. Due to the sudden snowstorm, they had to leave in a hurry and didn't have time to dispose of the remaining supplies. However, this amount was more than enough for Zhang Yi. But there should be more than just this one weapons warehouse in the military camp. According to Uncle Yu, the troops stationed in Tianhai City had a regiment of about 1,500 soldiers. So it was impossible that there was only this one small weapons warehouse. Zhang Yi collected everything he could find, went outside, and continued to use the excavator to clear the snow from the concrete walls of the building. Sure enough, he soon found another weapons warehouse nearby. This weapons warehouse had slightly less weapons and equipment than the previous one. However, Zhang Yi also found several thousand bullets and 2 boxes of hand grenades. From what I can see, this is more than enough. A satisfied smile appeared on Zhang Yi's face. With these weapons and equipment, if it came to a battle in Tianhai City, basically no one could pose a threat to him. He had never used a hand grenade before, but he could ask Uncle Yu or look up how to use it online later. Zhang Yi didn't find any other heavy weapons. After all, Tianhai City was stationed with an infantry army and didn't have any artillery or tanks. As for other weapons such as heavy machine guns, they had definitely been taken away when they carried out their missions. If it weren't for the snowstorm that struck so quickly, Zhang Yi wouldn't have been able to pick up all these weapons and ammunition. In any case, these weapons are enough for me. And this also points me in a direction. In the future, I can obtain weapons from police stations and military units in various places. Every city of a certain size had a police station and military units stationed there. Zhang Yi had a means of transportation, so in the future, he could easily cross cities and go to nearby satellite cities to find weapons and equipment. Zhang Yi searched the surrounding area again to confirm that there was nothing else of value, then drove his snowmobile away from the military camp. He didn't go far. The area was wild and covered with trees, which was just what Zhang Yi needed. He used the excavator to cut the trees in half and put them into his space. He was busy for a long time and didn't return until nightfall. At that time, all the neighbors in the building were waiting for him to return and distribute food. But this time, Zhang Yi returned empty-handed. When he saw his neighbors, Zhang Yi spread his hands and said, "I looked everywhere today, but I couldn't find any food. Everyone just bear with it for now. You can't feed people too much, or they'll start thinking about all kinds of things. For example, yesterday, some people took advantage of the situation and started asking for clothes. Zhang Yi deliberately didn't bring anything back today to remind them, I'm feeding you, so don't take advantage of me. If you want to eat, then obey me." When they heard Zhang Yi say that he didn't have any food, the neighbors immediately began to grumble. "What? There's no food today? No way, there are so many places out there, couldn't you look harder? There's nothing to eat, how will we get through the night? You worked hard all day and didn't get anything?" Zhang Yi smiled as he looked at the chattering crowd. "Are you done?" Everyone's expressions changed, and they closed their mouths with displeasure. You seem to have gotten a little cocky lately. Have you forgotten that you were the ones who begged me to save you? Could it be that after only a few days, you think it's only natural for me, Zhang-Yi, to bring you all food? If that's the case, then let's just go our separate ways. From now on, you can find your own food. Everyone was shocked. Li Qingbin quickly said, Brother Zhang, that's not what we meant. We understand how hard you've worked. With all the snow outside, it's not easy to find food. Please go back and rest first. Chapter 108, Training the Neighbors. With a shrug, Zhang-Yi said, that's how it is today. After saying that, he waved his hand and let everyone leave. However, Luan Chang, who had been in the crowd, suddenly spoke up. Zhang-Yi, it's not good for you to go out alone. Why don't you take a few people with you? I noticed that your snowmobile can easily carry 3 people. If we all help you look, we'll definitely find the supplies faster. The others turned their heads and looked at Zhang-Yi with strange expressions. They were also very tempted to go out and look for supplies. Especially after witnessing Uncle Yu help Xiaolime and her daughter find their clothes last time. As long as they could go out, they could take whatever they wanted, right? Zhang-Yi, if you need help, everyone would be happy to help. A woman plucked up her courage and said. Zhang-Yi narrowed his eyes slightly. He smiled. What, you guys have your eyes on my snowmobile too? If that's the case, then let's just call it quits. I won't bother with you guys anymore. Luan Chang hurriedly tried to explain, but Zhang-Yi didn't continue talking nonsense. He just took out his gun. Click! He skillfully released the safety lock. Everyone's faces turned pale, and they hurriedly backed away. Zhang-Yi, don't do anything rash. We just wanted to talk to you, we didn't mean anything else. Right, if you don't agree, then forget about it. Isn't that okay? We're actually very grateful to you for helping us find food, and we only said that because we were afraid you'd get tired. Don't get the wrong idea. Zhang-Yi smiled contemptuously. Don't say anything that's disruptive to unity in the future. Or perhaps I've been feeding you guys too well lately. After Zhang-Yi finished speaking, he raised the gun in his hand and shot Luan Chang dead with a loud bang. No one expected Zhang-Yi to shoot him without a second thought. They thought Zhang-Yi would reason with them, and then they would use their numbers and verbal superiority to leave Zhang-Yi speechless and finally agree to their demands. But they forgot that they were never on equal footing with Zhang-Yi. Dialogue requires sufficient leverage. The scene was filled with screams, and the neighbors were so scared that they immediately ran away. But the hallway was too narrow, and people were crowded together, causing a large number of people to trip and fall. Unless I kill a few of you, you won't understand your place. Zhang-Yi's eyes were cold as he fired several shots at random, killing 4 more people. Then he stopped and watched these people run away like dogs. Only Uncle Yu and Xiaolime didn't run away. Uncle Yu stood on Zhang-Yi's side. Xiaolime, as always, hid behind him and pretended not to see anything. Uncle Yu said to Zhang-Yi, they're so full of themselves, they've forgotten who they are. Zhang-Yi thought to himself, if it weren't for the fact that they're useful as cannon fodder, I would have killed them all long ago. On the surface, he shrugged his shoulders magnanimously and said, it's okay, I'm a kind person. I forgive them. Now that he had plenty of firepower in his hands, he felt free to do whatever he wanted. Xiaolime pulled Uncle Yu's arm and looked at Zhang-Yi with some fear in her heart. Kind? You'd better be. Let's go back. Zhang-Yi carried his gun and walked away with a look of indifference on his face. He was now almost ready, and it wouldn't be long before he got rid of these cannon fodder. Even if they didn't die in the upcoming battle, Zhang-Yi would clean up most of them, if not all. So he didn't really care whether these people lived or died. Moreover, he knew that even if he killed a few of them, they would still come back to him begging for food. Sure enough, just as Zhang-Yi had expected, the people in Building 25 were scared out of their wits by Zhang-Yi and hurriedly fled back to their homes, then closed their doors tightly. At that moment, they remembered the fear they had felt when they were ruled by Chen Jianghao. At that time, they had also hidden in their homes every day, not knowing when death would come. These homeowners secretly created a new group, but did not include Zhang Yi, Zhou Qi, Uncle Yu, and Xiao Limei. Since the end of the Ice Age, at least dozens of groups had been created in each building. The distrust and hypocrisy between people was vividly displayed. What should we do? Zhang Yi is pissed off and wants to kill us. We don't have guns, how can we fight him? Someone asked nervously. After a while, the neighbors recovered from their panic and began to discuss the situation. Zhang Yi. He's completely unreasonable. We were just trying to negotiate with him, but he shot us without hesitation. The scary thing is that he's killed so many people with his gun in the last few days. How many bullets does he have? Why would an ordinary person have so many bullets and even a sniper rifle? I told you, Zhang Yi is an urban soldier or a retired special forces soldier. You didn't believe me. A heavy online novel fan expressed his opinion. Whoever he is, we shouldn't have had any fantasies about him in the first place. He's a very selfish person. Everything he's done for us is just to make us pay the price. What good intentions to help us? It's all lies. He's not that kind-hearted after all. Right, he just wants us to be his cannon fodder, charging into battle for him to seize supplies and territory. The group cursed Zhang Yi, and even those close to him, such as Zhou Qi and Uncle Yu, were also heavily insulted. They couldn't beat Zhang Yi, but in front of him, they were as lowly as ants. However, on the internet, they could regain their self-esteem and transform into warriors to attack Zhang Yi. After cursing for a while, everyone vented their anger and felt much better. But then a new problem arose. Although Zhang Yi is a selfish person and only gives us food for his own reasons, if he doesn't give us food, what are we going to eat in the future? After this sentence was posted, the chat group fell silent for a long time. The owners hiding in their rooms were shocked, and then extreme panic began to arise in their hearts. They thought about how they had lived before Zhang Yi provided them with food. Everything edible in their homes had been consumed, including leather belts and jackets, which they had cut into pieces and cooked. The most desperate individuals, driven by starvation, even resorted to eating dog feces, as they knew dogs could survive by consuming their own excrement. What humans cannot endure most is the transition from hope to despair. If they had never seen the light of hope, they would not fear the darkness. But with Zhang Yi providing them with food for the past few days, they were no longer willing to return to their past lives. Finally, someone spoke up. Actually, when you think about it, Zhang Yi is a pretty good person. The people he killed deserve to die. Chapter 109, Pressure from the Entire Neighborhood. Faced with the terror of death, the owners began to fondly remember Zhang Yi. Once someone started, it was easy for others to be swayed in such chaotic times. Especially now that they were all hungry, it was easy to think of how delicious the food Zhang Yi had provided them was. Come to think of it, weren't we too harsh on Zhang Yi? He braved the fierce wind and snow to go out alone and find food. It wasn't easy, and he had to bring back enough for dozens of people. That's true. It's just that he didn't find any today. We won't starve to death. We can endure it for a while. Those who were beaten to death were asking for it. They were asking for trouble. Exactly, who do you think you are, trying to steal someone's snowmobile? They deserve to die. Hey, that reminds me, that Luan Chang is a real piece of work. He let his dog run loose and it almost bit me. Really? Oh my God, he really deserved to die. And he was going to get us killed too. Let's not talk about that now. Anyway, we have to convince Zhang Yi to help us find food again. Right, that's the only way we can survive right now. You're right, his house is made of metal, we can't break in. We have no choice but to beg him to take pity on us. Just as Zhang Yi had thought, if you were even slightly nice to these neighbors, they would take advantage of you. On the contrary, if you treat them like pigs and dogs, they will come and grovel at your feet. Confucius said it well, only young women and petty people are difficult to deal with. If you are close to them, they are insolent, if you are distant, they hold a grudge. Not long after Zhang Yi returned home, someone from the large group of owners of Building 25 tagged him and apologized to him. Zhang Yi, what happened today was our fault. We sincerely apologize to you. We hope that you will forgive us as our neighbors for many years. Zhang Yi, it was all that dog Luan Chang who started it. None of us had any such thoughts. You must know the truth. We will definitely listen to you in the future and do whatever you say. Please go out and find some food tomorrow. We are all really hungry. When Zhang Yi saw these messages, a cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, but he didn't bother to reply. He would just let them struggle and suffer. Should I let them have one last hurrah and turn them into a death squad? Zhang Yi rubbed his chin and pondered. If I throw over a couple more pieces of moldy bread, they will probably fight over it. Just at that moment, a series of notification sounds came from his phone. Zhang Yi was a little curious. He had blocked most of the group chat notifications, so why were there still notification sounds? He glanced at his phone and realized what was going on. It turned out that Chen Lingyu, the group leader of Building 9, had added him to a new group. He looked closely and realized the mysterious nature of this group. There were just the right number of people in the group, including him, for a total of 30. In it, he saw many familiar names. Building 18, Li Jian. Building 26, Huang Tianfang. Building 21, Wang Chang. Building 5, Zhang Yunian. These people were all the current leaders from the 30 buildings. A sharp gleam flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes as he muttered, "It looks like they're going to show their true colors." Zhang Yi knew that this day would come sooner or later, so he wasn't surprised. After all, not everyone was like him, with endless supplies at their disposal. Life in the other buildings was like a long, slow death, and they couldn't afford to wait another day. Seeing Zhang Yi come in, Chen Lingyu said, "I've brought Zhang Yi in. Let's talk about that matter." Zhang Yi remained silent, wanting to see how these people would discuss this. As Zhang Yi's enemy, Wang Chang, the leader of the Wild Wolf gang in Building 21, was the first to speak, his tone explosive. "Zhang Yi, I hear you guys in Building 25 have been living the good life these past few days. You have food to eat every day. You're living comfortably, but you don't even think about us poor neighbors." Zhang Yi sneered, not bothering to argue with them. One voice couldn't beat 29 voices, especially when they were online. "If you pulled me in just to listen to you talk shit, then I'm leaving right now." Huang Tianfang hurriedly said, "Zhang Yi, don't be in such a hurry. If you leave now, we can't guarantee what will happen." Zhang Yi laughed coldly, "Are you threatening me?" "Huang Tianfang, I killed so many of your China gang dogs, how dare you talk to me like that? Believe it or not, I'll come over tomorrow and slaughter all of you." At this moment, Huang Tianfang, who was behind the phone, suddenly felt a chill down his spine and hurriedly sent a voice message, "Don't scare me. The owners of the other 29 buildings have already formed a united front. If you want to attack any of us, it's the same as attacking the others. No matter how powerful you are, you can't fight all of us, can you?" Zhang Yi's eyes flashed. As expected, these people had already joined forces and formed a united front. The good-natured Li Jian stepped forward and said, Okay, everyone calm down. We created this group in the hope of reaching a cooperation through negotiation. Not to kill each other." Wang Chang snorted coldly and said lazily, "Old Li, you're good with words, tell him what we discussed." Li Jian said, "All right, Zhang Yi, let me explain the current situation to you." Li Jian was still very articulate, and in a short while, he explained the agreement reached between the 29 buildings to Zhang Yi. First, they formed a united front and agreed to put pressure on Zhang Yi's building, number 25. If any of the buildings were attacked by Zhang Yi at this time, the other buildings must come to their aid. Second, they demanded that Zhang Yi also provide them with supplies to ensure their basic survival. In exchange, they would not attack Building 25. Third, in order to ensure that Zhang Yi would fulfill his promise, they demanded that everyone take turns using his snowmobile and that it would not be kept by any one person. Fourth, Zhang Yi needed to reveal all the resources he had access to. After all, the city was blocked by heavy snow, and even with transportation, not everyone could find supplies. Li Jian explained the situation and said, Zhang Yi, that's it. Do you understand? A cold smile appeared on the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth. These people were really bold, wanting to take his snowmobile and have him help them for free to ensure the livelihood of the entire neighborhood. And all they were offering in return was their so-called sincerity, merely promising not to attack Zhang Yi's Building 25? Are they even worthy? Zhang Yi didn't get angry. Although these conditions were ridiculous, even laughable in his eyes, from the other side's perspective, they did make some sense. Negotiations were all about gaining every little bit of advantage, and asking for the moon was just a tactic to prepare for better bargaining later. However, Zhang Yi could still laugh at them. The basis for their conditions was built on their serious misjudgment of the combat effectiveness of Building 25. They believed that as long as they joined forces, it would not be difficult to kill everyone in Building 25. But how could they know that Zhang Yi now had a large amount of weapons and ammunition in his hands? If it really came to a fight, the gap between the two sides would not even be on the same level. It's not about numbers. A single water droplet from the Trisolarans could annihilate the entire Earth's space fleet. Chapter 110, You want to compete with me? Are you sure? Zhang Yi didn't say anything. He was mocking these people's stupidity. He really wanted to see the look of shock and panic on their faces when they saw his true strength. Should I kill them all now? Then clean up Building 25 while I'm at it. Zhang Yi rubbed his chin and muttered to himself. With sufficient firepower and a way to deal with the people hiding in the building, it shouldn't be too difficult for him to kill everyone in the entire community. Moreover, those bastard neighbors in Building 25 would be of no use to him, so he could get rid of them as well. No, that would still leave a security loophole. Even if I want to wipe them out, I have to kill them one building at a time. But what if they all go crazy and charge at me together? With over 1,000 people, they could crush me to death with their bodies alone. Although these cowards are too scared to do that, it's not impossible. My life is worth more than theirs. I can't afford to take such risks. We need a more reliable plan. While Zhang Yi was thinking, the group chat members saw that Zhang Yi hadn't replied for a long time and became a little impatient. They felt that victory was assured and that Zhang Yi had no choice but to bow to them. After all, in their minds, there was no one in the Yuelu neighborhood who could fight against thousands of people at the same time. If there was, it would be a myth. Wang Chang began to press him. Are you mute? Hurry up and speak. You have to agree to this, whether you want to or not. Otherwise, we won't be so kind. Chen Lingyu said, Zhang Yi, no one wants to die. We all want to live. Although I know you may feel uneasy, in this life, sometimes you have to be flexible. After all, those who recognize the signs of the times are the wise. Li Jian said, Mr. Zhang, I think you need to think about this carefully. We don't want to resolve this through conflict, but we also want to live. If you agree to cooperate with us, then the entire community's supply issues will be resolved. At that time, we may be able to return to the state of civilized society we had before. The others also chattered away. Some played the good cop, some played the bad cop. But in the end, they all meant the same thing. Zhang Yi must agree to their demands, otherwise he would die. Zhang Yi glanced at the messages in the group chat, and as his eyes swept over the names of the building owners, an idea suddenly popped into his head. To catch the thief, first catch the king. If he could kill the owners of these buildings, the rest of the people would surely fall into chaos. By then, they would have exhausted themselves, and even without Zhang Yi lifting a finger, most of them would be dead or injured. So, he slowly said, I need to think about this. You've been discussing this for a long time, but you haven't given me any time to think about it. Furthermore, I hope we can all sit down and talk about this properly. There are too many people here, and it's difficult to talk. How about we meet in a few days, the leaders of each building, and have a good talk about cooperation? Sound good? As soon as he said this, Wang Chang immediately replied with a cold smile. What, you want to gather them all together and then kill them, right? We can meet, but you have to come to our territory. I suggest we meet at Building 21. Zhang Yi smiled slightly, knowing that these people would not agree so easily. After all, those who had survived until now were all wise and cunning. He was not in a hurry and said indifferently, "You can send representatives. But the negotiations must take place at our place, Building 25. Zhang Yi's tone was very firm, with a hint of unquestionable authority. Wang Chang laughed loudly. "What gives you the right to decide? Do you think we're idiots?" Huang Tianfang also said, "Zhang Yi, don't try to be clever. We're not stupid." Zhang Yi sneered, "You don't even dare to send a few representatives over, so what's there to talk about? You guys like to fight, right? Fine, let's not talk anymore. Let's fight." Both sides' tone were very strong, and neither side was willing to back down. During negotiations, momentum was very important, and they couldn't lose. Otherwise, they would be at the mercy of the other side. At this moment, the peacemaker Li Jian popped up again. "Everyone, don't be like this. We can talk things over, we can talk things over." He asked Zhang Yi, "Zhang Yi, how do you plan to negotiate with us?" Zhang Yi said, "Send a few representatives from your 29 buildings over, and we'll have a good talk about how to cooperate in the future. I'm not that unreasonable. Now that you all have your eyes on the supplies and the snowmobile in my hands, how dare I talk to you? Anyway, my conditions are right here. Come or go as you please. I believe you have already asked around about me. I'm not afraid to tell you that I knew about this once-in-a-lifetime cold weather wave long ago. That's why my house is built very solidly, and I'm not afraid of you attacking it. At worst, we'll just wear each other down and see who can last longer." After saying this, Zhang Yi stared intently at the screen. This was a test to see if anyone in the neighborhood would try to destroy his house. Although the probability was extremely low, with a battle looming, Zhang Yi might face an attack from thousands of people, so he had to consider every possibility. As it turned out, mathematics does not lie. The unlikely event did not happen, and after thinking about it for a while, everyone in the group felt a little discouraged. They knew that Chen Zhenghao had been killed by Zhang Yi. When Huang Tianfang had brought people to blow up the house, Zhang Yi's house had remained intact. They were just ordinary people in society and couldn't get their hands on enough explosives to blow up an entire building. So once Zhang Yi chose to stay put, they really had no way to get to him. After a while, one of the building owners said, "You can protect yourself, but there are so many people in your apartment building. Can you protect them all?" Zhang Yi rolled his eyes. Did they really think he was some kind of saint? They must have run out of ideas and could only resort to this kind of thing. At a time like this, of course I have to protect myself first. Don't try to morally blackmail me, it's meaningless. Chen Lingyu was getting a little anxious. Zhang Yi, even if your house is very sturdy, the food inside will eventually run out. Can you guarantee that you won't come out for the rest of your life? That's why it's meaningless to bury your head in the sand and escape reality. Zhang Yi couldn't stop smiling. Then let's try it and see who can last longer. Compete with him in terms of resource consumption? Zhang Yi had a saying, "I never care how much other people have, because they don't have as much as I do anyway."